let's walk through the function buttons that are on the front panel of your machine. So we'll just kind of do them in order here. So for example, let's just go ahead and start sewing. We have what's called a start-stop button. If you wanted to sew without your foot control, just push the start button. Now it's going to go ahead and start sewing, and to stop it, you can touch the stop button. This is also where speed might come in a little bit handier, because if you're doing this and you're sewing along, you don't want it to go so fast, you can reduce the speed down. And as you can see, it kind of gets away from you if you don't realize what you're doing here. So let me go ahead, we'll just cut our thread. But the start stop button is nice if you forget your foot control, or you just want to use the button instead of sewing there. So if we do the reduced speed, you'll notice on screen there's a little place where it shows you how fast it is going or not going. There's a nice slow speed, so it's good. And then you can just go ahead. Another thing you can do is if your foot control is plugged in, you can go ahead and stop it by stepping on your foot control. So that's another way. So if you start it but don't want to have your foot on it, I sometimes will use the start stop button when I sew out decorative stitches. Then that way you can just kind of mindlessly watch the stitch come out without actually having your foot all the way held onto that foot control all the time. Okay, so start button there. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to jump over to the fix button, go across here, and then talk about that. We'll come back to the stop button. Okay, so fix has got its own little thing. Do you notice when you use your scissors, so we'll cut the thread, the fix button light comes back on. That means that you're going to get locking stitches when you start. So as you step on the foot control, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it starts to do straight stitches forward. The fix button is used up once it is not lit anymore. But at any given time, if you are sewing, you're in motion, and you touch the fix button, on demand, it will lock it and stop. All right? And then when we start again, it's on. So then we can go ahead. There's going to be more locks there, because there's a lot of locks in that one little hole. Now the other thing is if you push it while you are stopped. So you can go ahead and push it, and then go ahead and now notice it locked, but then it kept sewing. So if you want it to lock and stop, make sure you're in motion, then touch the fix button, because it'll lock it and then stop sewing. My foot is actually still on the foot control. But if we go ahead and it's just on, it's going to lock and then go ahead and start to sew. All right, so there's 2 ways to do it. Honestly, by the time you take a little time and figure out your fix button, then you know when to use it at any given time. Same with the scissors or the automatic cut here. You can use it 2 ways. If I just push it now, bingo, it's going to cut and lift the foot. All right, now watch this. If I go ahead, missed my fabric. Okay, if I just go ahead and sew, and I push the scissors while I'm sewing, it's going to give me locking stitches and a cut and a lift. So that is a great way to do it. But if you just push it at any time when you're just at rest or not sewing, it's just going to cut it, lift it, done. But if you want it to be locked at the end, do it while you're sewing. And you can even see when you push it, it will blink while it's locking, cutting, and then lifting the foot up. So that's wonderful. On the next one, let's talk about the needle up down. Okay, so if we go ahead and touch it, you'll notice that there'll be a picture on your screen. Now the needle is pointing, or there's a little arrow next to the needle pointing down. So when this is set, the needle stops down, but the foot also kind of hovers, so you can turn your fabric and rotate that around. We're great for applique, decorative stitches, working on something really intricate where you're going around a circle. It's great to do that. And then once again, if you get used to using the scissors while you're in motion, locks it, cuts it, lifts the foot up. Okay, but the needle's still going to stop in the down position because we haven't changed it. Speaking of needles up and down, let's just do one more thing. Needle stopping down. If I tap my foot control just a little bit at the top of it, it will take a half a stitch. Again, a quick tap at the top of the foot control, half a stitch. And that's a great way. So you really don't have to be turning the hand wheel over there on the side of the machine. You can do everything with your finger, half a stitch, or you can do it with your toes, half a stitch. So that's always fun. Okay, let's go ahead and say, okay, I've got the needles in the fabric, my foot's down, but I need to get it out for some reason. And so another thing we can do is I can bring my needle up, and I can lift my presser foot up manually right here. So go ahead and lift it up. If you push that again, it lifts it up even higher, and then you can use the cutter on the side of the machine to cut that since we weren't using our scissors. Once again, when you step on the foot control, everything will come back down. But what if we wanted to lower the presser foot manually? We need to start in the exact position here, right at the edge of our fabric. Well, I lowered it, but it's not where it needs to be, and the foot's holding on, and how do we get it to move? If you touch that same presser foot down button again, it pops the foot up to that little hover position, and see, I can move the fabric wherever I want, but I will be able to kind of see that placement that I want. And as soon as I lower or step on the foot control, the foot will go back down and off and sewing, you're ready to go. You also have the reverse button, so as you touch it, while you're sewing, it lights up and goes backwards. Okay? Now, if you touch it while you're not sewing, notice there's a light. Now we're going to be going continuous reverse. Okay? Until you touch it again, then it will come back forward again. So depending on when you touch it, so once again, if you just touch it while you're sewing, which is kind of how most people are used to, release it when you're done. But if you're stopped and you touch it, away back you're going to go. All right, touch it again to turn it off, and you're set. Okay, so let's go ahead and push the stop button. Stop. It's going to do a couple locking stitches and stop. So I kind of did a fix and a stop for you. It's kind of very similar, but the reason I use a stop button is with my decorative stitches too. So if you just wanted to do like one repeat of it, you can push the stop button. It'll sew just one repeat of a flower or a leaf or something, and it will stop. And so that is the best way to use the stop button. But it's always there. Now don't get them confused, the start stop button and the stop button. So what I would recommend, play with each of these things and find how they work, because some of them have that dual purpose, and then that way you understand them so you're not afraid of them, and you'll be able to use your machine at a more efficient style.